Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. We're here again today, another week, another nugget of information for you all today. And today we're going to talk about things that you need to consider before you become a landlord. So if you're thinking of buying a rental property, which a lot of people are doing, because I've talked about this numerous times in other videos, that real estate is a big way to create generational wealth, to create that passive income, and get an investment property or a rental property is the way to go. And a lot of people are doing it. A lot of people are looking into it. So obviously, if you're going to be if you have a rental property, that means you're going to have tenants. And if you're going to have tenants, that makes you a landlord. So before you venture into that world, I just want to give just a little high key, very high key things that you should consider, look out for if you're considering being a landlord, especially in the Ontario, Canada context. Again, you could always research and do more of your research on the landlord tenant board websites, on the various Ontario government websites, or wherever you're from. You could search your government website to see what the exact stipulations are, because a lot of these things I'm going to mention, sometimes they vary based off what province you're in or what state you're in if you're in the United States. So, but this is just high key, certain things that you should consider, look out for. One thing when you're looking for a tenant, you're gonna want to look for certain things, or you're gonna want your tenant to provide certain things in order to make sure that they're the right fit for you to have them move into your property. And you want to make sure that they're gonna take care of your place. You want to make sure that they're gonna pay you on time. So when you have your tenant application, again, every province might have different applications. Their applications might look different. Sorry, and I'm looking down because I'm looking at my notes. Certain things you're gonna want to get from your tenant. Number one, you want to get proof of employment from them. You want to make sure that they are working consistently, they have a consistent income coming in monthly, so that way it's not going to be an issue every month fighting with your tenants for your rent. So you want to have a proof of employment, and you want to actually check out the references. You want to get I believe you can get a credit score. I'm not sure if that's mandatory. That might not be mandatory, but I know some people might ask for a credit score because they just want to make sure that what's your credit looking like? Do you pay your bills on time? Do you pay it, like, are you good with your finances type of thing? Again, it goes back to, am I gonna have an issue with collecting rent from you every month? So some may ask for a credit score. I don't know if it's something that they have to provide. You would have to look into that, but that's one thing that you can look into to see if you can get a credit score from them. References. So besides the proof of employment, you want to get references. You can get references from maybe a previous employer of theirs, maybe a previous landlord of theirs if they were renting a property before. Maybe you can ask them to get in a reference from a previous landlord, so that way you can kind of see how they took care of that property. If they're moving in for the first time, you're gonna want to collect the first month and the last month of how long the lease is. If it's a 1-year lease, if it's a 2-year lease, you'll want to collect the first and last month's check. You're also going to need to collect a security deposit from them. And then usually if it's 1 year, you might collect post-dated checks from them. So just tell them to send you 12 post-dated checks for the year. And that's another way to do it. And that's kind of a way to make sure that you have a kind of a security that you don't have to call them or contact them every month to be like, hey, the rent's due, when are you gonna send it? If you have the post-dated checks there, you let them know. It will be in the lease agreement that the rent is gonna come out this date every month. So then That way they post date the check to that date, and when that date comes, you cash it. You know, hoping that they don't have, you know, they have money in their account and the check doesn't bounce. That's one thing, so you can avoid having to contact them every month unless they're like very good and on the ball of paying you every month. But unfortunately, not everyone is so lucky to get like the most perfect tenants. As less stress for you and for them as possible, because also with the post-dated checks, sometimes it might just slip their mind. You know, life is busy. The first of the month might come and it might just slip their mind, you know. So as long as if you have those post-dated checks, then you can just go ahead. So that is your preliminary stuff that you're gonna wanna look into getting before you have them sign the lease agreement. Now, when you have the lease agreement, when you found the tenant, you've done your interviews, and you found a tenant, within the lease agreement, there's certain things that you can highlight within the lease agreement that should be there. You wanna make sure that they are there. Things, again, obviously, how much is the rent? When is the rent coming out monthly? What day is it coming out? Is it coming out the first of the month? Is it coming out the last of the month? Is it coming out the 15th of every month? You want to have that stipulated in the lease agreement. Obviously the frequency. Are they paying monthly? Are they paying bi-weekly? Are they paying bi-monthly? Whatever it is that you have it stipulated there. You want to also highlight in the lease agreement what the tenant is responsible for and what's the landlord responsible for. The landlord is usually responsible for obviously the maintenance of the property and bigger ticket item repairs, especially essential repairs like heating, ovens, fridge, washer, dryer, you know, the essential stuff to make the house comfortable. The tenant's cosmetic stuff, that's not really the landlord's not really responsible for that. When I say cosmetic stuff, I mean like if the tenant wants to paint the house a different color, you as a landlord, you don't have to do that for them. You can give them permission if you want to paint your walls. I mean, I don't know if that's the wisest thing to do, but you can give them permission, okay, to go ahead and paint whatever color they want, and obviously they're responsible for buying the paint and all that stuff. But it's not up to the landlord to do that for them. Also in the lease agreement, you'll want to make sure that you include how much notice are you gonna give them if you need to enter the property. Like, are you gonna give them a 3-day notice, a 1-week notice, 24-hour notice, 48-hour, whatever you decide. That should also be in the lease agreement. Notice of entry into the property. You also want to include lease cancellation clauses. If they cancel the contract or their lease before the lease is up, how much of a cancellation fee they would have to pay, or, you know, all of this, that stipulation. Maybe they won't get their security deposit back, or, you know, you want to make sure that's highlighted in the lease agreement as well. Within the lease agreement as well, you also want to include who's responsible for utilities. Usually the tenant is responsible for paying their own utilities. That only makes sense because they're the one living there, so they're the one using the water, the electricity. So it wouldn't make sense for you as the landlord to pay for it, because then they can just, you know, run it up however they want, because they know they don't have to pay for it. So usually it's the tenants that are in charge of the utilities and like getting their own internet and all that stuff. That's if it's a separate property. If it's like a basement property, then obviously utilities can't be separated. So you're gonna wanna factor in how much you think they would be spending or contributing towards the utility bill within their rent. And usually the internet and all that stuff would be included in their rent if it's a basement property. You also want to include things like, is parking included? How much parking is included? You might also want to include if it's required for the tenants to get liability insurance, renter's insurance. That's also very important. Many landlords say that they have to get renter's insurance. Even on your own insurance as the homeowner, when you have your house insured and you pay for your own insurance, if you let them know that you have tenants in there, they might say, okay, the tenants have to get their own insurance as well in order for us to cover certain things if something were to go wrong. So you want to look into all those stuff. You want to make sure you include the cost of like maintenance fee. For example, if you're renting out like a condo or a townhouse, you would have maintenance fees. So you want to make sure that you include the cost of what the maintenance fee is in the cost of their rent. Also property tax, you may want to factor that in as well. You want to think about all those things when you're determining how much the rent will be. So if there's maintenance fees, property tax, if you hire a property manager to deal with it, you want to factor in probably the cost of paying the property manager. Obviously, location, you want to look around and do your research of how much rent is going for in that area, because you want to relatively match it. You don't want to be too low and you don't want to be too high. You know what I'm saying? You want to kind of be even across the playing board for what typical rent is in that area. So you want to look into all that. In Ontario, specifically, this is new because of COVID-19, the pandemic. In 2021, and this is another thing you want to consider, if you're just getting into renting out like right now, you want to consider the fact that in 2021 the Ontario government has passed a legislation that landlords cannot increase the rent for 2021 as a COVID relief for tenants, for renters. So usually in Ontario, landlords are allowed to raise the rent about 2.2%, I believe, each year. But because of COVID-19, 2021, landlords are not legally allowed to raise the rent. However, you could still have an agreement with your tenant, because some tenants are honestly just really paying below what they should be paying. So some tenants may be okay if you raise the price, but you want to discuss that with them. But if they're not okay, then for 2021, unfortunately for landlords, but fortunately for the tenants, because it's been hard hit for a lot of people, but it's been hard hit for landlords as well. But the government has decided that for 2021, legally, landlords are not allowed to raise the rent. So that's also something you want to take into consideration. But that relief ends December 31st, 2021. And so for 2022, you'll be allowed to resume to raise the price again, unless they extend it. But that's what it is right now. Another thing about being a landlord, which I found very helpful, is you want to kind of have like a repairman or like electrician or a plumber, a trusted electrician or a plumber that you use or have a good rapport with, that you can call on whenever there's repairs or anything that needs to be done at the tenant's house. Again, that's if you don't have a property manager and you're the one doing it yourself, you want to have those key people in your phone on speed dial, because things come up all the time. Maintenance for the house comes up all the time. I have one person that I call almost all the time if something breaks down in the house, and they're reliable. They answer right away. They're usually able to go over to the house right away and get the thing done. So having that kind of person on your corner as a landlord is very important. So keep that in mind. If you're thinking of going into renting, think of, can I myself maintain the property, or do I know somebody that can do these repairs, plumbing, electrician, all that stuff if need be. So that way when if a problem arises, you're not scrambling to try to find somebody last minute and causing further delays. So hopefully guys, this was helpful to somebody. That was just some of my high key points. If you do have any other questions or concerns about it, drop me a comment. If you would like some more information about becoming a landlord, being a landlord, the life of a landlord. I mean, it's not that hectic, but yeah, leave a comment and hopefully I'll be able to answer your questions. So again, always guys, like I say, to make a like, comment, and subscribe. You guys really helped me with my last video. I'm very happy about that. Got a lot of, you know, people that joined the family from the last video. So let this video also do the thing, give its magic, okay? So yeah guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.